thought it was a nice, slightly overdue, slightly over, I don't know, over lovey-dovey type of a makeup session between the Packers organization, Brett Favre, and the Packers fans. It was like a weird three-way kiss type of thing where they all finally got together and made up, and we really love you, we always have and we always will, and whatever. But he certainly belongs in any and every Packers Hall of Fame of any kind that there is anywhere. So have no problem with that whatsoever, and good for him. Let's see. Brett Favre was also at the ESPYs this last week. At least I think it was this last week. I don't know. People are still talking about it like it was this last week. I missed that too. Like I said, I've been crazy busy here this month of July, but I've been doing the best I can to keep up on sports, both for myself and for you guys. But he was at the ESPYs. I want to say he wiped out on the red carpet or something like that, kind of shacking the fool, if you will. But anyway, the main story of the ESPYs that people are still talking about is, of course, Caitlyn Jenner, formerly Bruce Jenner, receiving their Arthur Ashe Courage Award. A lot of people get it and support it. There are definitely a fair amount of people who don't and won't. My take on it is one of, I guess I would really need to sit down and listen to what the criteria is or has been established to be for such award, go through it, gain my own understanding, look at the recipient and see if they meet some of, most of, any of, or all of the criteria, and then determine my opinion on that, and solely that. Based off of what I know and understand, I have no problem personally with Caitlyn Jenner receiving this year's ESPY Award for Courage, their Arthur Ashe Memorial Award. I'm sure there are other extremely well-qualified people as well, as there are every year. However, when something is this public, you're either perceived to be on one side or the other. And I believe that for the good, at least, played a reason, or it was a factor in ESPN choosing them. Caitlyn Jenner was in the news so much. Again, Caitlyn Jenner is formerly known as Bruce Jenner, who was a gold medal Olympic athlete for the United States of America. So it is not like this is just a celebrity who went and did this and then got awards at a sports show. No, this is an all-time historically successful American Olympic athlete that we are talking about here. Was the same human being, was the same spirit, the same soul, the same mind. Some of it was the same body. Not all of it. But I hope you get the point. Anyway, am I getting there? I don't know. I kind of feel like I'm not. But the point, I guess, is that there are many different kinds of courage. And I view what has happened in that story of that person's life to fall under a definition of courage. And the fact that this person was an accomplished athlete at one point in their life, that's okay. It works for me. I don't have a problem with it. But I know there are people uncomfortable with it. I know there are people who disagree with it. And I know that there are people who are super happy about it and hoping that it's just one more small step in equality. So anyway, that's my take on the ESPYs and Caitlyn Jenner. Let's see, Tom Brady, a little bit of football news. Goodell came out like a week or two ago and said, yep, I'm going to make my decision on Tom Brady's appeal any day now. Tom Brady then came out and said that if he's suspended even one game, he is going to take it to court. And since then, Goodell has come out and said that there is no timetable, no timeline on a ruling of any kind. So, that's the news or no news there. I think it's a giant joke. The guy cheated intentionally. You shouldn't have to prove it 100%. If you can prove it 75%, that should be enough. A dirty UA, okay, if you're testing for PEDs, a dirty urine sample, that's 100% proof that that person knowingly, willingly, intentionally took steroids? No. Somebody could have walked in that guy's room when he was asleep and jabbed him in the needle with a butt, trying to sabotage him, knowing that he had a test coming up. Or maybe what he thought he was putting into his body was actually something else. It wasn't an intentional trying to gain a competitive advantage. Somebody, whether it be a doctor or whoever, told him this. But we still take that failed test as 100% absolute proof. Guilty. It doesn't necessarily prove that. It proves that you are more than 50% likely and guilty, which to me is really similar to what the kind of evidence the NFL has against Tom Brady in his balls that aren't firm enough. But you've got Tom Brady, Robert Kraft, and the rest of the Patriots over here saying that no, in America you have to prove somebody 100% guilty or you can't punish them in any way. First off, this isn't a legal issue, okay? It's a game rules issue, okay? And we have more than sufficient evidence to believe or suggest that it is most likely, the most likely explanation that anyone can come up with is that you knew about it and you were in on it. Just take a 1 or 2 game suspension, or take the 4 game suspension, or whatever. Take the freaking suspension and let everybody get on. Fighting the suspension, getting it reduced, is not in any way going to change the way that Tom Brady is thought of and looked at historically. If you think he's a cheater now, you're always going to think he's a cheater. And if you still don't believe that he's a cheater, you're never going to believe he's a cheater. So none of this reduction in suspension or anything has any impact on his legacy or how he's remembered historically. All it really has any impacts on is his checks. If he's getting a check every week, or if he's not getting a check 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 weeks because he's not allowed to play. And then thus what the Patriots have to do without him being their quarterback. That's all it affects here. It does not affect Tom Brady's legacy. So I think the whole prolonging of everything is pointless and stupid and petty. I also think when you do the crime and you get caught, do be thankful for the reduced sentence they give you and just shut up and serve it. And, that reminds me of another great archived episode of Balls Deep Sports Talk that you can listen to on Spreaker for free if you download the app. And it is the episode where I discuss Flakegate and inform Tom Brady what he should have done the whole time. I told him to take some air out of the balls. I didn't tell him to take more than what was allowed. I assumed that they would, only take out enough to still be within the rules, but on the low side, as there's a pressure range. I am terribly sorry this happened. I don't want to affect anybody's integrity or the game or nothing like that. And while I had no knowledge of it and didn't intentionally gain any competitive advantage, the balls I were working with were against the rules, and thus I will accept the punishment that comes down as a result. And then the NFL can go, oh, okay, see, we don't have to blame it on Tom Brady. We can blame it on the ball boys and stuff for taking it too far. Anyway, check that out. That was a good listen too. But So that's where we're at or where we're not at, depending on how you look at it, with Brady and Roger Goodell. And our last bit of NFL news, and then we'll put Balls on Fire officially out and move on to the meat of the show, is that Cowboys wide receiver Dez Bryant and Broncos wide receiver Demaryius Thomas both restructured their deals with their teams. Both were slapped with the franchise tag by their respective squads earlier in the offseason. Both of them had major issues and problems with that and wanted to get paid, yo. So they were able to finally accomplish that. Also, a lot of conspiracy theory belief that the two were colluding somewhat to achieve their respective deals. No proof on that, and if they did, I don't freaking care. There's nothing wrong with that in that application to me, in my opinion. But yes, if you are a Cowboys fan, you got Dez Bryant locked up now for several years, and if you are a Denver Broncos fan, you got Demaryius Thomas locked up for several years now. All right, well, let's do the QB ranks, because there was a big NFL quarterback rankings thing that came out this last week that a lot of people are talking about, and let's save that maybe for next week. If there's not quite as much football news, then you can get the real balls deep NFL quarterback rankings, not the semi-accurate, semi-inaccurate one that's out there now and most people are viewing and talking about. So, all right. Again, thanks for listening tonight. We got plenty more show left. You're listening to Balls Deep Sports Talk here on WNLMradio.com, or maybe you're listening to it on the Spreaker app. Either way, thank you so very much. All right, so moving to our main segment of the show here on the show, which we call simply the meat. This is the meat of the show. I talked football. Now I'm going to talk my other largest passion in the sports world, and that would be golf. How anybody can not love golf just boggles my mind. Like when your thoughts get all trapped in a bottle. Anyway, this last weekend we had the 140-somethingth playing of the British Open. Some call it simply the Open. It is the longest running, obviously, of the four majors, and I believe of any golf tournament. It is revered as the birthplace of golf. The first British Open took place there in the 1870s, and they have been playing it there every year ever since. And this last one that we watched this weekend actually didn't finish on the weekend. It finished on Monday due to multiple weather delays throughout the tournament on Friday and Saturday. And I found this hard to believe, especially with how consistent severe weather is in that part of the world. This was only the second time in the 140-plus year history of the tournament that there was a Monday finish to it, that it did not end on Sunday as intended. I found that rather fascinating. Not that it means anything, but like I said, I thought it was pretty interesting. I would have expected that number to be higher. Now, as far as the actual play in the tournament goes, it was a great watch, whether you like watching the train wrecks or whether you like watching the artistry and the mastery at work. This is not the Masters, this is the British Open. But anyway, Tiger Woods, will get him right out of the way. He was there on Thursday and Friday, and then he was gone. In fact, he might have been there Saturday yet, finishing out his second round. I'm not sure if he got his second round finished on Friday or Saturday. But when his round two was done, he was allowed to leave promptly because the cut was established at even par. And Tiger Woods, after 2 rounds of golf, was 7 over and I want to say the winner at that the leader, excuse me, not the winner.